Are we there? Hello, hello.
It's still the gray.
Okay. All right. Oh, Marty's making an appearance on Facebook Live. One second, everybody. We're figuring some stuff out.
Experienced, yes. Pros, no.
We're there. Awesome. Everyone, that was my husband, Marty, in case none of you know who he is, making an appearance. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Mystical Mondays with Seaside Shadows. I am Courtney, and this is Andrew on the other side of where I am. And we are hoping you're enjoying a relaxing Labor Day and had a nice day in the beautiful weather that we're having, at least here in New England. I know out west, people are having some pretty wild, very hot and then very cold weather. So wherever you're watching from, we hope you're comfortable and relaxed. We've been very busy here at Seaside Shadows, incredibly busy, actually, some might say, and we are so grateful for that. So many of you tuned in and watched videos this spring and early summer, and now you get to come see us in Mystic, and we've been having so much fun meeting you and taking you on tours and introducing you to the local history and mystery. So thank you so much for that. Now, for today's segment, we're going to talk a little bit, of course, about what's going on in Mystic, but more we're going to talk about the virtual segments for those of you who are still able to tune in, or maybe that's the only way that you can see us for now until you can make it to Connecticut. We know there's a lot of travel restrictions, and maybe this is the best way that you can interact with Seaside Shadows for the time being, and that's why we want to continue doing our segments. And so we're doing one a week, and each week it's a different theme. So we have Mystical Mondays, which we're doing right now, where you can interact with us. So I encourage you during this particular segment to send us questions. You can do so in the comments. And Andrew has offered so nicely to check the comments every so often. And you can send us questions about our ghost tours, about ghost hunting, if you'd like, about any specific ghost stories that you think we may know about. You can send us questions about the segments that we've filmed, especially the ones we're going to be kind of chatting about today, which includes a witchy Wednesday. I did that to myself when I named it that. A Witchy Wednesday segment on Artemisia Water, part 2. That was something we started actually back in June, and we were able to finish up because it had to steep, if you will, for quite some time. And so we were able to finish that up this past month. And then we also had a fabulous Cemetery Saturday in Coventry, Connecticut, with the Hale family, but most notably Joseph Hale. And I'll definitely chat with you guys about why I picked Joseph Hale, and as opposed to any of the other Hales, and namely probably you're wondering why I didn't pick Nathan Hale. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then a fantastic ghost story, one that I was really excited came on to Spooky Story Sunday. We love the old campfire type ghost stories and legends that have built up, and this one just fits that perfect New England ghost story vibe, and that is the Green Lady of Burlington. And if you guys missed any of the segments that I'm talking about, or any of them that we started filming, oh my gosh, Andrew, did we start in April?
Yeah, I think so. Wow, it's been a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we started in March. We took a couple weeks to get our bearings with COVID and see what was going on. But I know that in April, we definitely had some segments going out. We started with just some spooky stories to keep things virtual. And then we kind of progressed to the Cemetery Saturdays and the Witchy Wednesdays, and then finally the Mystical Mondays all started coming into fruition by May. So if you've missed anything over that period of time, You can watch them on Facebook, though I'm not sure that's the most friendly for watching videos. But what I would love if you could do is go to our YouTube. We really need subscribers on YouTube, and that is the best way to also watch anything that you've missed. So as for this week, I'm going to start just by chatting a little bit about the Witchy Wednesday with the Artemisia Water. It was something I was actually really excited to make, even though it was a little bit of work. And it came out really well, even though it was our first time making it, and we are selling it in our online store now. And Artemisia water primarily consists of the mugwort plant or wormwood. And we used all the different parts of the plant, the leaves, the roots, the seeds, and different parts were added at different times. The first part is mixed with a high-proof alcohol to make sure that it can steep really well and that that potency is kept from or kept inside the actual ingredients, because mugwort has a lot of healing properties and also some really powerful properties that affect one's mind. And so you want to make sure that those are kept really pure. And then we had a second segment where we reserved some of the roots that we took from the first segment and boiled them and made sure that the elixir was sort of made with that hot water and added to the first part, which was the high alcohol and all the mugwort ingredients. So it is called a Moontime elixir. One reason it's called this is because a lot of females will use it around what they consider to be their moon time during their cycles, and it's to help prevent cramps, and it's to help promote, healthiness in a woman's body at that time. But what I thought was really interesting, other than just the health benefits, was that there's a legend, and you can decide what you make of it. And it's kind of garnered from the goddess Artemis, and we all love a good Greek goddess legend. But it is said that she felt that during a woman's monthly cycle was when she was most powerful. And so that was why there were elixirs, and she kind of influences the herb mugwort during that time. So maybe, it's to help women look at their biology with some affection and who they are as a source of power, which I also thought was really neat. In addition, Moontime elixir doesn't have to be used just for women. Men and women can use Moontime elixir, specifically for the enhancement of dreams. So it's said that if you drink this, and this is one of the concoctions that you don't spray on your pillow or put in your bath, like you can actually drink. You're meant to drink small amounts or put it in your tea. And it is said if you drink it before bed, you'll have these very vivid dreams. So if you typically don't remember your dreams, you'll remember them if you have this mugwort elixir. If you typically dream kind of in black and white, you might start dreaming in color. If you typically dream like very boring dreams, you're going to start getting more prophetic dreams. So it's supposed to be this very big enhancing of the mind. But as I said in the segments, and as I'm going to rehash here, do not drink a whole bottle of it. Do not drink more than a few droplets of it. It is very closely related, shares most of the same ingredients with absinthe. And in high amounts, it can cause hallucinations, and those would not be vivid or prophetic dreams. Those would be hallucinations. So it is meant for only a few drops for you to really get to experience the spiritual effects in the best way. Putting a few drops in your tea will help your health and your dreams. So a lot of magic there. Mugwort is a very, very powerful herb. It's easy to grow. It grows really with very little care. I am getting better at gardening, but I have to say it's my easiest plant to take care of. If I take off half of it, it grows back right away. The seeds bloom perfectly at the top. It's just a fantastic one to have around, and I highly recommend it. And Artemisia water is in our Seaside Shadows magic store. Also in there are the other things we've concocted on Witchy Wednesday to date, including lavender water, which is an anti-inflammatory, rosemary water, which also provides all these healing benefits to remove pain, and black salt that can break curses that we've made. And we've made a lot of these over the cauldron in the fire. We also have a chamomile aloe vera sun spray to help bug bites and sunburns. It's actually been really fun because we've been creating all of these based on old herbal remedies from colonial folks, and that are all inspired by different god and goddess traditions and mythologies that have proven to be true. A lot of these even have biblical references. And so it's been really neat to bring back some of these old herbal healings, and we really can attest to their spiritual and health benefits. And we make them as organically as possible with everything from our own gardens and our own ingredients and everything, so that they're completely safe. For Artemisia water, the last thing I'll say is typically you'll want to see, if it was not made in a cauldron, a really bright green color to your Artemisia. We made ours in the cauldron, and the cauldron has normal cauldron ash, which has been very helpful with things like black salt. So ours is kind of a darker green, but I think that adds some magic. And I also threw some full moon water in there from Mystic, Connecticut, because that's always a helpful thing to have in any concoction. So Artemisia water was our Witchy Wednesday that we wrapped up. Part 2. Part 1 was filmed back in June, and it steeped for about 2 months before we were able to do part 2. So if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to send them to us. But that was our Witchy Wednesday. Moving on to Cemetery Saturday, and then Andrew's going to take it away after that with Spooky Story Sunday. Cemetery Saturday, we did Joseph Hale, and we went to Coventry, Connecticut, and went to the Hale family burial up there. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with, but may not be familiar with Nathan Hale, who was our state hero here in Connecticut. He was a martyr spy, called by many, in the Revolutionary War. He was the first spy for the Patriot Army. He was captured by Robert Rogers when he was just 21 years old, and he was executed on September 22nd, 1776. Prior to his venture as a spy, he was a soldier. Prior to that, he was a school teacher. Prior to that, he was a student at Yale. He had many well-known acquaintances, and he was known to be a man of quite good standing in the community and a very important part of his family. Passing at a young age was very hard, and it was especially hard on the family, who had many people nearby to him, but did not realize they were nearby. He was executed in New York, and several of his brothers were actually fighting in a battle in New York on the same day that he was executed. He had 5 brothers in the Patriot Army, and his father was a supplier of provisions to the Patriots. I love the Hales. When I wrote Revolutionary War Ghosts of Connecticut, Nathan Hale was one of the first spirits I sent myself out to find. I wanted to talk to him, and does he live up to his legacy? Who is he really? Is there anything we don't know? The more I found out about Nathan's story and him and his family, the more I fell in love with them. And I think that they're incredibly underrated and under talked about, and worth every bit of attention that they can get. But I think what struck me the most is that people talk about Nathan, but they don't talk about his family, and they don't talk about all of his brothers that fought in the Revolution. His older brother Samuel, who came back with severe post-traumatic stress and was never able to marry and lived alone in a house on the family property, a story that doesn't very often get told. His brother John, who would come back and take over the family estate from his father, but would struggle and was unable to have his own children with his wife, and they would both die young after working really hard. And his brothers Joseph and Billy and Richard Jr., who would survive the battles, but would come back, all of them with consumption that would kill them. So it's pretty brutal how the Revolutionary War affected these men. His brother Enoch did survive because he was not in the war. He was a practicing minister, so he was looking for Nathan and went to go find his body and wasn't able to do so. So there's these very impactful people in the Hale family. The sisters were actually knitting clothing for the soldiers. And so the more I found out about them, the more I felt like, wow, all of them contributed to our past in such a phenomenal way. But Joseph was always one that kind of pulled at my heartstrings. And I think the reason that he did is, he's one of the middle children. He's, he's older than Nathan, but he's still somewhere in the middle like Nathan. But he still had this kind of protective, fatherly energy to him when we would encounter him. He did pass away in the Nathan Hale homestead in Coventry, Connecticut, where I have gotten to spend a lot of time as an interpreter and volunteer and investigator over the years. And I think I felt his spirit a lot. He was captured as a prisoner of war, which is where he caught consumption. And one of his descendants still donates items to the museum. Only his third great grandson still goes and speaks on his behalf. And just a remarkable story. But what struck me about him was his caring for his family, his continual nature. Even when he was a soldier, a lieutenant, he responded to the shot heard around the world. He goes to Bunker Hill. He fights endlessly throughout the war. He even puts off getting married and starting a family till the end of the war when he's in New London. And he consistently checks on his brother. And he consistently goes to check on young Nathan, knowing that he's innocent and not ready to be a soldier. And Nathan records in his diary that my brother Joseph came looking for me. He would consider to continue to fill in his father. And I think on what was going on with everyone. And I think there's just that closeness that Joseph felt to the cause and to the people that he loved. That passion was really attractive to me about Joseph's character and his undertold story. Sadly, the documentation on him is minimal. We told you in the segment as much as we could find, but his energy is strong, and it's always a pleasure to talk about him. His wife did remarry after his passing. He had 3 daughters before he passed away. And he is buried in Coventry. Billy, who was also passed of consumption, is buried in Coventry. He was a blacksmith in Lebanon, Connecticut, where you've seen Andrew do Cemetery Saturday before. But he came and is buried with the family. Samuel, who had PTSD, is buried with the family, as is John, who took over the family estate. Enoch, who was the minister, is not buried there, and David, I believe, is buried elsewhere, the much younger brother who was too young to fight in the war. And the sisters are buried there as well, at least one of them, if not both. Nathan is not buried in Coventry, but you'll see 2 stones for him, one put by the family and the other a large obelisk with his last words on them, which you will see in the shot. But we talked about Joseph. His is a humble stone, hard to read, but he is there. And I hope that when you have free time, you take some time to learn about the Hales and keep space in your heart for Joseph, who's kind of the underdog of a lot of the stories, but and untold, but very important. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to talk about the fabulous Green Lady of Burlington.
So I really like this story. I mean, I've liked all of the stories that we've done on Spooky Story Sunday, but I always have a special place in my heart for a good spirit, a benign, benevolent spirit. Though not everyone sees the Green Lady that way. Sometimes she does appear and things go awry, but by and large, she's a good spirit. And I really like that because we've talked a lot about spirits that aren't necessarily good or have good intentions, but, you know, spirits are just people, and nobody is just completely evil.
No.
But I like to think that,
you know, when I read that it's believed to be Elizabeth, and Elizabeth being the woman who her husband went into town, I believe, and he got caught, or a snowstorm came after he had gone into town and he hadn't come home. So she wanted to go make sure that he was okay. And she set out to go find him. And then I guess the legend states that she herself either, got very cold or hypothermic, or
Fell into ice.
fell into ice and perished herself. And how certain are you that it is her or not her?
I don't know, because there's a bunch of different conflicting origin stories for the Green Lady. I think regardless of her actual identity, the one thing that we can know is she lived in the area and she definitely died by drowning in a swamp. But even with Elizabeth, was there the aspect that she wandered off into the winter or into the cold looking for her husband, or did something else happen? Like, how much of each of these origin tales is the truth?
Mm-hmm. And what do you think the significance is to her light being green? We hear so much about a white color surrounding a ghost, or even a black color, but green is very vibrant and unique to this particular woman. What do you think that's about?
It is, and it's not just a light, it's a mist as well that exudes from her body. And based off of a lot of the research that I've done about it, it attributes to the swamp. A lot of people attribute that. A lot of people attribute the green mist to like swamp water evaporating off of her.
Okay, which would lead us to believe that it could be Elizabeth.
Yes, that would indicate, I think, that. Yeah. Have
any other potential green ladies been named?
No, but the not by name, but the other origin rumor is that it was a housewife who was murdered by an enraged, insane husband. And he dragged her out to the swamp and drowned her.
Which might be hard to prove other than word of mouth.
Yes, exactly.
Back in the day, because he could have said anything happened to her when he himself was responsible, and maybe people had their suspicions. So that is interesting. I think, they both have points for and against their validity. It's hard to see why a woman would go out worried about her husband's ability to survive the storm with no survivability factors going for herself in the same storm. Her going out, was that going to fix anything? Why would she make it there if he couldn't make it home?
Very good point.
Interesting reasoning, but who's to say, when love is a part of it, maybe she just really wanted to go find him and believes that would get her through. So, that could be true. The husband, we would like to think that if there was some sort of murder like that, causing the other woman, that we would know specifically if that's true. There would be documentation of a missing woman. We'd know her name. We'd have record of that man remarrying, something like that. But then again, records for those who weren't wealthy were hard to come by. And he could have said anything, that she died of disease or any other number.
Or wandered off into the wilderness, like.
Yeah. You could have painted her as totally.
Back then, that could have been enough to get suspicion off of him. Oh yeah, she started talking funny and just walked off into the woods.
Yeah. So it could have gone either way. needless to say, there is a restless spirit there. Now, I heard and read that the Green Ladies Cemetery is private and not open to the public even during the day. Is that what you found as well?
Yes, and it is patrolled by police still. And I think a lot of that has to do with the legend being as powerful as it is. And they've renamed basically the cemetery the Green Lady Cemetery. Um, and it's such a draw still to this day that it has those that want to see her going there. And it's privately owned and they don't want anybody there.
It's interesting because cemeteries we really think of as a communal place to go and honor the dead, and that any of us can visit to do so. So when one is prevented from doing that because of the power of this legend, it leads one to believe more in the validity of the story than it being, just a story. So if it was just a story and there was really no Green Lady, there would be no harm in letting people go and find that out. And it kind of reminds me a bit of Dudleytown in that way. It's always patrolled. There's always hired law enforcement to prevent people from going, which if there's nothing, and then they say there's nothing there. But when you employ law enforcement to prevent people from coming into a place, to me, it validates the story that there's something there they don't want you to see.
You're going to convince people there's nothing there when you're so clearly telling them that there is.
Yes, especially knowing that it's innate human nature, just human nature, to want to do what you're not supposed to do. If someone says, don't go to that area, you're going to go to that area. If someone says, you can't touch that, you immediately want to touch it. It's
time.
Yeah, it happens from the time we're very little. So to patrol a place and say, oh, it's off limits, almost adds the intrigue and adds to the story. And to me, makes it seem a little bit more valid, from a ghost hunter's point of view. If it was just, go and find out, and then people could say, nah, I didn't see a Green Lady, but they're not letting people do that.
Yeah.
So she's
they have something to hide.
And also I noticed that particular religion, I don't even know if it still exists, for this cemetery, the Seventh-day Baptist.
Seventh-day Baptist, yeah.
Yeah, that seems very unique in that that's the first cemetery in the area, is this very niche religion. There were a lot of Protestant sects back there, but in that time, but I don't recall Seventh-day Baptist ever coming across in my research.
It's very, very unique.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I know there's Seventh-day Adventist, and could it be an early form of that?
That's what I was thinking, but I have no idea, because I would think that would, I mean, they specifically put Baptist, which leads me to believe that it's very different.
Yes. And that adds a uniqueness to it. Do you know who owns the property? Did they say?
I don't. I know it was owned by a church for a while, the Seventh-day Baptist Church,
right?
But I don't know who currently owns it.
Right, because we're assuming, due to our lack of knowledge about said church, that church is not there. But we stand to be proven wrong.
Yeah, maybe it still is. Maybe that's a bigger religion than either you or I know of.
It is. I go on quests, and you can definitely sound off in the comments if you do anything similar to find my ancestors sometimes, and go in these old and crazy cemeteries. And I actually went to visit some relatives in Georgia earlier this year, and my aunts knew of some old family burial sites. And, I thought it's probably just a cemetery like any other. And they would take me to like near where these churches would be that changed names several times over the past 100 years, probably changed exactly what type of church, and pathways through the woods or behind suburbs where these little burial grounds that were once attributed to what was once a larger church are now in the middle of woods where no structure stands, or church is 2 miles away and they kind of sort of know that it's there, but it's not really in their care anymore. So there's these really interesting cemeteries out there that are kind of, becoming grown over by this anonymity, and the church is changing or not owning those particular plots. 1 second, my cat has to be let out of the office. He's screaming at me. But he's happier now. Sorry, I have a cat named Lennon, everyone. He is named after John Lennon, the Beatle, and he's bossy.
That's for sure.
He's the head honcho of this household. So yeah, I wonder if it's like that, where maybe there's still a church there, but they don't actively use this old burial ground, and it's sort of set aside in their care, but not. But it's interesting, and I always wonder, whether I'm looking for an ancestor or a historical figure, what's going to be the end result of these cemeteries that are kind of being forgotten and grown over and, in anonymous care. It's something, that I think about often, and maybe the Green Lady story kind of likened me to that. If no one's going in there, who's taking care of it, who's visiting them, who's remembering them, because there's other people in there too. And I like to make sure that all the spirits are attended to and memory. So, might be something in the future that I'll look into, see if we can't see how they're doing, and see if there's some answers to who the Green Lady is. And if she's coming by, she has something to say, right? That's kind of what we always say on our tours. If they're coming by, they have something to say.
There's a reason.
I would love to find out what she has to say. Speaking of such spirits, Andrew, you can probably attest to this as well. We've had a very active summer at Seaside Shadows. The spirits have been, wow, they have been so out and about. And our tours in Mystic, we run some in the downtown area, the historic drawbridge area, and we run some in a colonial cemetery. And we are going to start doing them in a Victorian cemetery very soon as well. But on the tours that we've run so far this summer, we just started our fall schedule. We've had so many fantastic guests capture evidence of ghosts on these tours. I have, and Andrew has both been getting images sent to us of faces in windows, people standing in the cemetery where no one living was standing, these fantastic orb images. And people have been feeling a lot more energy on the tours. A lot of people are reporting that they're feeling what the spirit felt, and a lot of sense of empathic energies going on between the living and the dead. So it's been a very interesting summer. I feel, the spirits have a lot to say right now. I think they're definitely there to help us, but it's been a wee bit spooky how active they are. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, and I had a tour last night, which one of the spirits that we talk about on the cemetery tour last night was the 239th anniversary of his death.
Mhm.
And he was definitely there with us last night.
Yes.
Uh, People got orbs in the pathway that he generally walks. People were complaining that they were just overcome with emotion when they were standing where he generally stands.
Yeah.
So yes, especially last night was
Yes.
quite something.
And if you look to our one of our recent posts on Facebook and Instagram, you'll see what it was the 239th anniversary of. We also had the pleasure of hosting some commemorative boat tours, anniversary boat tours of this particular battle where this gentleman perished and where so many others perished. And I can say the tours on September 5th, which is the day before the anniversary, were spooky. But the tour I gave yesterday was so, it's almost as if I could see them dying and hear them in the distance. And there was this solemn quietness that even all of the guests felt, that we were almost watching it in real time. The energy was really, really hard to explain, but definitely, gives haunted history a distinct meaning. And the spirits of Mystic have been very eager to come by and to share their stories. And we hope that this fall you'll be able to come and meet them. I think you'll like them quite a lot. We have a lot of favor for them ourselves.
We love them.
Yes, yes, yes. So we do have some exciting news at Seaside Shadows as well. We have two new tour guides who have recently finished training for the tours and have started going out and about in Mystic. And you will start seeing them likely as well in videos coming up. And we're gonna, once they get comfortable with the tours, we'll start letting them join in all these videos and giving them all these fun new things to do. But we want to give a big welcome to Sarah Taylor and Sophie Williams, who have joined our team. They will be fabulous guides this fall. They are so appreciative and full of history and mystery energy themselves, that just exudes from them. And I think you will have an excellent time should you be on one of their tours. Andrew and I are not going anywhere. We are just so darn busy and want to make sure that we have enough ghost tours for everyone, that we're so happy that we could expand our team so that everyone can have a ghostly tour offering. We have also expanded our tour schedule now that we have the bigger team that we have, and we are offering tours almost every single night of the week excepting Mondays. Monday will be the day to let the spirits and the guides rest, but the rest of the week you can take a ghost tour. Our tours did change in time. Instead of 8 p.m., they are starting at 7 p.m. now. And they will expand in availability in October. On Saturdays, there will be 2 7 p.m. tours, one cemetery one and one downtown one. There will also be 9 p.m. tours on some of the Saturdays in October. And there will be some midnight paranormal investigations as well in the cemetery in October. So we have just a great October schedule. Andrew and I are also working on a fabulous tour of Elm Grove Cemetery with some Victorian era spirits, and that is going going to debut later this month and will also be available in October, November, and December on select dates. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up with our walking tours in Mystic, both in graveyards and downtown. We also do have an update on Virtual Salem. We are doing the Virtual Salem tour in mid-October on a Friday night. What does that mean? It means you can grab a cocktail, sit on your couch, and watch us walk through Salem, Massachusetts, and talk about ghosts. And Andrew is debuting something else very exciting here at Seaside Shadows. We have our Seaside Shadows masks, so that you can rock your haunted history attire on our tours and everywhere you go. On the mask is a Seaside Shadows logo, which is Our Lady with the lantern in front of the lighthouse. Ever so mysteriously, she has always represented us well. And on the other side is, of course, because it is a pandemic after all, the Plague Doctor mask, so that you can bring that with you as well. So those are also available on our Seaside Shadows store, as are color changing mugs, some t-shirts. So you'll see purple and black with lanterns and logos on them. What else? Oh, we also have some bleeding skull candles, like glow in the dark candles on the online store. And we are going to have bandanas up there soon. So our online store is updated for you for the fall season, so that you can get some spooky attire as well as some witchy goods. We have all of those Mystic tours, a virtual Salem tour. We are still hoping and planning to go to Ireland next spring in April, should things be better by then, fingers crossed, for international travel. But I do want to remind everyone, while we are operating to the fullest extent possible, and we're so happy to be able to do this in a time where people need to get out and do things, there's a couple things you need to know. One, I'm going to say this to save my own phone the rings. There are no more boat tour spots. I'm so sorry. We are so sorry. We added more boat tour spots, and they sold out so quickly after the Hartford Current put out a beautiful article we're so grateful about. Then all the boat tour spots just sold out so quickly. We will be bringing boat tours back next year. And if you did get a spot on the September, October boats, we cannot wait to see you. The other thing we want to tell you of the utmost importance while we are operating all of our walking tours, still at this time, masks are required during the tours. So we have those beautiful Seaside Shadows masks. We ask that you wear those or something comparable during the tour. And it's not that we're trying to be the big bad boss tour guides. We want to have a good time with you. It is the law in the state of Connecticut, and we want to abide by it so that we can continue to do what we do and share history and mystery. So by doing that, you're helping us continue to provide our tours. So we appreciate that in advance. I just want you to know we are doing our best to work with all of the rules and keep you as safe as possible as well. The ghosts, of course, will be there. We can't stop that. That's what you come for. But we're going to keep you as safe from COVID as possible while you're with us. So that's a lot of what we have coming up. I'm sure I'm forgetting things. I'm always forgetting things.
We have so much going on. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's so much. We are still waiting to hear if we will be doing any of our joint events with the Daniel Packer Inn, but we are thinking due to the restaurant and bar regulations at this time, those may be postponed. We will, of course, make an announcement when we find out. I am still working on a third book that will come out next year. My first two books are in the online store. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Andrew? Probably. We do have Christmas tours up for sale in December. Yep. Ghosts of Christmas Past. Did you remember something else?
No, I am. There's so many things. I'm just trying to juggle them all in my head.
We currently do have an investigation planned with John Zaffis on September 19th. That being said, John is making sure that it is something that he is able to do, checking with with things in his personal life to make sure that this is something that he can still do given the current COVID situation. We will make an announcement to all ticket holders and non-ticket holders who are curious as soon as we are able to confirm what's going on. We are hopeful, but we want to do what's safe and what's best for everybody. So please bear with us and know that we are trying to do what is most comfortable and best protocol for everybody. But we are working really hard to offer as much as we can at this uncertain time, and hope that you can check out our calendar and see the many things that we have up there. We will be continuing our virtual segments next week. We will start off again with a Witchy Wednesday, and you may see one of our new ladies up there for that one. I know one of them specifically has been waiting to do a Witchy Wednesday. So I cannot wait for you to meet them. I wish everyone happy haunts, and send us any questions throughout the weeks that you may have for the next Mystical Monday. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
We didn't have any questions, so on that, good night, everyone.
Good night. Bye.